fork?
Okay, let's try this again. Welcome to Forking Off, the podcast for people who said no to just following orders, where we explore the very personal decisions behind leaving federal service, whether by choice or by force. Every departure has a story, and we're here to share them.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of Forking Off. I'm Jill Fields.
And I'm Philip Fields.
And today we have with us Jordan Mathews. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, Jill and Philip. I am so excited to be here. And for full transparency, this is the first podcast I've ever been on.
Oh, this is exciting. We had never been on podcasts either until we started this. So it's new for everyone. So Jordan, why don't you go ahead and get us started with your bluff, your bottom line up front, who you are, where you worked, and what departure you took.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Jordan Mathews. I worked at the Community Relations Service of the U.S. Department of Justice, also known as America's Peacemaker. Small but mighty component. I was very proud to work there for nearly 4 years. I worked as a program analyst at our headquarters here in DC, but I focused mostly on training and program development. Ended up taking deferred resignation 2.0 in April. I have been saying that I woke up that week not at all expecting to take the fourth. You know, when the first one came out, when we got that infamous email, I remember being like, finding a renewed purpose of like, okay, like I'm going to stay and I'm going to take up space and I'm going to do my duty as a civil servant to defend the Constitution from the inside. That week came. Again, woke up Monday, having no intention of taking it. By Friday, that was my last day. I ended up deciding to take it on, I think it was on a Thursday actually. So it was that quick that I was put on admin leave.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a whirlwind. Though I've had nearly 5 months over, I guess 5 months-ish now to process it. Still, yeah.
It's still hard to process. It's still not something you ever expected, is it?
No.
I know. So Jordan, you've got a pretty great background. Why don't you share with us your story of how you got into public service? Yeah. So tell us how you got into public service.
Yeah, nostalgia. So I can't, I think, tell my story without talking about my family. I grew up in a very Air Force proud family. Both my parents were in the Air Force. They met in ROTC. In college, my grandparents on my mom's side were also in the Air Force. My grandpa was a pilot. My grandma was a nurse. And that definitely permeated everything while growing up. Importance of civic duty was so important. And so my dad had always said, it's not the military, find other ways to serve your country. That obviously stuck. In undergrad, I went to Boulder. I studied international relations. I always was so intrigued by traveling the world and being able to go outside of myself, learn about other cultures. And so I really thought that was going to be the path for me. I ended up going into the Peace Corps and serving in the Dominican Republic for 2 years as a youth development specialist. And I really focused on gender equality, which was a transformative experience. They always say it's the hardest job you'll ever love. And I think that's really true. It really, really impacted me and how I see the world and what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Seeing the importance of gender equality, something I already knew, but seeing its relationship to having peaceful democratic societies, I decided I wanted to go to grad school. And so I applied for the Rotary Peace Fellowship, which is a great program. I always like to plug it. So many people do not know about it. And if you are interested in studying peace and conflict studies, I encourage people to go and look it up. It is a program that fully funds master's programs abroad. They also pay for your living expenses. So it's incredible. And I applied for it.
That's amazing.
Yes, it's incredible. So I always want people to know because it changed my life truly. And
okay, what's the name of it again?
It's called the Rotary Peace Fellowship.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to include a link for that in the show notes.
Yes, please do. Because I had never heard of it. It felt very serendipitous how I learned about it. Ended up applying a month and a half before applications closed. I was feverishly writing while I was still in the Peace Corps, my essays. I found out the week before the end of my service that I was selected and that I would be going to Sweden, Uppsala, Sweden, to get my master's of social science and peace and conflict studies. And I was just elated. I mean, I still can think about getting that email and where I was and so excited. So I went to Sweden in 2019 and I studied for 2 years. Obviously COVID happened, so things kind of shifted a little bit than what I expected, but it was still a really incredible experience. And while I was there, I applied for the Presidential Management Fellowship, which was was unfortunately no longer something that the US government is investing in. I applied, I got in, and I ended up finding what I call my dream job at Community Relations Service, America's Peacemaker. And so, as I said, I thought it was going to be internationally focused, and January 6th happened, and it really impacted what I saw for myself. I think academia does a really poor job of looking at the West and our own relationship with peace and conflict, specifically conflict. And I was like, wow, we have plenty of our own issues at home. And I really felt called to come back. And so when I learned about CRS, it's essentially the mediator for America. We respond to community conflict across the US and its territories. It was born out of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I felt honored to be a part of such a history, and it was a dream job.
Yeah, that is, I had never heard of it until we talked with you, and I was
Isn't
like,
that crazy? And you're at the Department of Justice.
I know, and I was
FBI.
like,
I
this is
know.
the coolest thing. I mean,
Yeah.
growing up in Mississippi, like
Yes.
civil rights, everything that happened, Emmett Till, and just
Yeah.
all of this, Mississippi burning, like this is, I never knew that existed and that there were people out there doing it. And I think it's amazing and so cool that you were there and you were with that group. So tell us a little bit more about what prompted you to leave this dream job. You said earlier, like Deferred Resignation 1.0 came out and you were like, nope.
Yep.
And then
Not today,
2.0 came out. Yes. Sorry,
Yeah.
slamming that door in your face. We're not doing
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
tell us more about that. What changed your mind? What precipitated?
It was such a 180. I knew that CRS was going to be under attack. I think we were all eyes wide open that was going to be our reality, considering the administration had tried to get rid of us unsuccessfully the first semester. However, because we're mandated by the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to get rid of us, to eliminate us, should take an act of Congress. So I think we felt that there was some level of protection that we had, because historically, CRS has been supported by a bipartisan collective. And so, we thought maybe there will be some issues people have, but overall, we will find a way to survive this. However, as we all know, it became very obvious very quick that things were different this time around, and how things were operating and how quickly things were moving. We're like, oh my God, okay, whoa, whiplash, what's happening? So we found out that they were going to try to eliminate us, but it was going to be doing it through moving us to another office. So it was functionally we would still be kind of around, but we wouldn't be as independent as we were before. And so I was like, okay, this is weird, but I'm going to hold on and see. Then we found out that wasn't the case, that it is likely that they are going to fully eliminate us. And if not fully eliminate us, totally functionally eliminate us. And I was like, okay, I know this now. I have this information that I didn't have before, just thinking about it. And then that same day, the day before I decided to take ERP, we found out that the department had updated their personal use of social media policy. And you guys might remember that email, or Jill might, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Philip was not
news.
there. He was lucky.
Yeah.
He was lucky
Yes.
to not sit
It
through
was
the
in the
meetings
news.
about that.
Yes. And I was like, oh my goodness. Stacey Young from Justice Connection, who I can't say enough wonderful things about her. If you're part of DOJ, definitely check out Justice Connection and the incredible work that they're doing on behalf of impacted DOJ employees. She had said in the Reuters article about that update, and I have it quoted here because I just think it was so important to one of the reasons why I decided to leave. She said, this new policy represents unwarranted attack on DOJ employees, one that stifles free speech in their private lives and creates new ways for the administration to oust career public servants who don't toe the party line. And that felt like a line in the sand in some ways for me. I was already struggling with feeling very silenced in what was going on, and struggling with feeling like my values were being confronted every day. Every new memo that came out, every new executive order that came out, I was like, even if we survive this, we're going to be a shell of what we are supposed to do. We're not even going to be able to be doing the work that we are mandated to do. So what is that? Just me staying here? Is that, I really had to grapple with that. So then when that social media policy came out, I was just, okay. And being the person that I am, who's a loud mouth, I was like, what is this going to mean for somebody like me, potentially? I don't know. And so I thought about it, and what ultimately been the was like the final reason why I decided to leave. Was I was like, I am tired of waiting around for my like death sentence or whatever it may be. Like, I want to feel empowered again and not wake up every day and be like, is this the day? Is this the day that I'm getting the RIF notice? Is this the day that we're being fired? Like, is this the day? I was like, no, I'm going to like take my power back. That for me felt like the most empowered decision I could make for me and my wife and thinking about our future. And so I decided to take it, and I took it. It was like one of the hardest decisions I ever made. It's so crazy. I like wake up feeling like I can talk about this and get through it without crying. But yeah,
It's so emotional though. It's so emotional. And I don't think a lot of other people understand that haven't been in this government service where like, I mean, for people that are in the public service, we want to do good and we're wanting to find a way to help people and to give back and to be sidelined and to deal with the trauma that was every day of not knowing what new thing was going to happen, what new, like I can only imagine what it was like every day to go in and not know if you were going to be pushed to a different role, a different unit, a different anything, or to get a RIF notice and be pushed out. So it's totally emotional and
it's emotional personally. Like I think about it, I'm like, there was a lot of shame that I felt for taking before because I really believed in holding the line and like needing to be there to help and support like what we could from the inside. And so when I finally took it, I was like, God, this feels like it goes against what I've been saying for so long. And it happened so quickly. And I felt like it was a sellout. And that was really hard to kind of contend with personally. There was a lot of grief, of course. I entered service thinking I would have this long career as a public servant. And now I'm totally wondering like where my place is in the world and what I'm supposed to be doing. But I had so much like sadness, like not individually, but like knowing who I've been working alongside, truly the best and brightest, who I came in with through the Presidential Management Fellowship program. We want to talk about meritocracy. If we really believed in meritocracy, if we really believed in critical thinking and having the best people in service, programs like that would not be eliminated. Because people that came through that program were incredible. And I think this is a rough estimate, so no one quote me on this, but my guess, just people I know, it's like 75% are gone now.
Wow.
It's like a generation of future leaders in the public service. And so knowing that and seeing that erode so intimately, like I am devastated for our country and what that means for all of us. And a lot of people don't feel that yet. But unfortunately, I feel like the effects, like we're the canary in the coal mine, and
yes,
people will be feeling those effects more and more.
Yeah, sorry. It's emotional. It's emotional for me. And I know for Philip too, like it's.
Yeah, I'm honestly just not even sure what to say. Like it's just,
yeah, the gravity of it is hard to contend with and to really look ourselves in the face of like, now's the time, people, wake the up, you know, hopefully I can stay on this level.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. You can say whatever you want. You're fine. You're fine. But no, it's just so strange, like talking with everyone that we've talked to, and especially like, I mean, Philip and I talk to each other daily about a lot of this. It feels so surreal to have taken this. You had just gotten married as well. So,
we had.
Which congratulations.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How did your wife take that?
Bless her.
I know she was supportive, but like, how did she take that?
It was so hard. It was like a month and a half after we got married that I made the decision to leave. I think knew it was coming, so we weren't totally blindsided. And I think she was really encouraging of me taking the fork because she saw how much it was affecting my mental health. Like I was unwell, was truly so unwell. I felt so unlike myself, and I hadn't felt like myself in a really long time. So she was certainly supportive of that, and it was great. So I married her. But
understand.
I could definitely feel like these decisions, these things they don't exist in a vacuum. They affect everybody. So, yeah, it's been hard, but she's luckily still employed and does not work for the government, works for sports.
Go sports.
You know, yeah, we have a diversified portfolio in this household because I know there's a lot of families that are two vets or two workers who both work in the government. And that's been stressful enough, just what's happened with my job, but I can't imagine. So.
I mentioned your wife because I know a lot of our coworkers, they didn't have that support of their spouse to leave. And I think it's really important to understand that this does impact other people. Leaving a position like this, you have to have that support system.
Yeah,
because
my
it is
dad,
traumatizing.
totally. Like my parents were supportive, but my dad really struggled. I think he had the same dream for me that I had for myself of this lifelong career
Oh,
in
yeah.
public service, the one who's always stressed duty. And he really was like, are you sure this is the right decision? Are you sure? Are you sure? I was like, I'm sure. Of course, he was supportive and believes I made the right decision. But, there's a grief process for more than just myself. And I think everyone really like, oh my God, what is happening? I remember him thinking like, you'll get through at least like, it's going to take a while if anything happens.
Right. Yeah. Nobody expected this massive
Yeah.
change so fast.
So fast. Yeah.
So fast. So looking back, is there anything that would have changed your decision? Is there anything that could have made you say, nope, I'm still hanging on, I'm still here?
It's a good question. It's one I thought of, and I joke, maybe a little less fascism would have kept me around. Yeah, it's hard to say. A lot of things would have had to be really different for me to be able to stay. And, some people are talking about getting called back into their roles because they've fired too many people, right? And, oh, oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Actually, will you come back and work for us? Like, I thought about that scenario. And to be honest, I don't think I could. Yeah, I don't think I could, which is crazy to say, but I feel pretty strongly and clear about that now.
So let's move to some other happier things. So what have you been doing since you left? Since you so quickly left?
I know. I think the first thing that I've been doing is just like getting to know myself again. I felt so disconnected, as I said, from myself. And apparently the last year and a half of my job had been challenging. Things, of course, only got worse after the election as we tried to prepare for what we were guessing might be coming down the pipe. It became very challenging. And so I just felt like my life was just like responding to things. There was no time to think, to pause, to strategize. How am I doing really? Like that was like the first thing was just like, I need to get to know who I am now after all of this. One of the positive things about taking the fork is I felt like I really had the time to do that and reconnect with myself, reconnect with my intuition, reconnect with my voice, which has always been really important. And that was one of the things that was hard as a public servant, was knowing what I could and could not say. I've always been a person with strong opinions, and I've certainly voiced those while I worked, internally. But we have a duty, and I believe that's an important duty to serve out our mandate in a nonpartisan manner. I had been feeling that my values were really becoming, it was hard. It felt like it was hard to live my values. And so now I've really taken a step back and I'm like, who am I? What is important to me? What do I want to do now? And I know not everyone has the same privilege as I do. I don't have kids. I have a partner that's working. So I've really been able to take the time to do that work, and not so a lot of people may not get that opportunity, but I hope that if they do, that they do try to take that time, because it's been so important for me. I feel so grounded and clear on like what I'm wanting to do. And related to feeling silence, which was like such a big thing for me, I decided to start writing a blog called The Fed Up. I didn't expect it to turn into what it's become. As I shared, I had a lot of shame around leaving in the way that I did. And I didn't tell a lot of people for a couple of weeks. I struggled with my other public servant friends. I struggled telling friends who don't live in DC or in this world of like, and when I did tell people, I didn't always get like a really empathetic or understanding reaction.
Yeah.
That was really hard. So I was feeling all these things, and I kept hearing in my head, like, just write. I finally listened, and I decided to write a blog that ended up being what I used to announce my departure. It's called Fed Up with Feeling Shame, Former Fed Processes Taking the Fork. It was so cathartic for me, and it was so cathartic to see how many other people were like, oh my God, thank you for saying that out loud. Like, that is how I felt, and I've been struggling, and I'm just, thank you. Thank you.
And I remember seeing it show up on LinkedIn, and I read it. I even ran to Philip, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's it. Like, it's just the shame, like we feel, and all these feelings and all these emotions. And I was like, she has really, like, she's given it a voice there. And I appreciate it, everything that you've said. So the Fed Up, the
Oh,
blog, it has grown so much. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because I know
yeah,
like you wrote one post, I think in June, that I was surprised you wrote.
I think I know what you're
And
talking about.
I know, but it really felt like reading what you wrote, it pushed me a little bit more to be a lot more open and honest about how I'm processing things and how it's okay and you can speak up.
Are you
So if
talking
you
about
want
the fed up with being silenced post?
yes, that's it. That's it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. This is where I feel bad for my wife sometimes because she's like, I told her it was like brewing inside of me. I was like, ooh, I think I'm gonna post something a little bit more potentially provocative. And she's like, what does that mean? What do you mean
Oh.
provocative? Like so concerned for me in so many ways. But yes, I wrote this post, fed up with being silenced, why I decided to reclaim my voice in the face of fear. It was about how it was really hard to continue to see all these things happening and not feel like I could say anything because of just the uncertainty of what could happen in this day and age. You know, my understanding is I have a First Amendment right. Still, it depends on like where you're at in government, what level of government. So I certainly don't want to like paint this with a broad brush, but you know, most of us still have First Amendment rights as private citizens. We have the right to speak out and speak up if we're seeing something that's going to affect the public and that the public should know about. And so I took that to heart and decided to write this post. And, you know, my hope with the Fed Up is to encourage, support, celebrate impacted workers, federal workers who decide to say the true thing out loud. Like authoritarianism thrives on our silence. It thrives on our fear. It thrives on our silence. And so if we could all find what we can, you know, again, doing our own calculus, we all have different calculus. We all have different things we need to consider, but it's going to take us to have to take some risk. It's not always going to be comfortable. That is really what I'm trying to do with the Fed Up, is to encourage more people to speak up, speak out, feel like they're going to be supported, creating a community of folks who are doing the same thing, because that's what's needed right now. Like I really, really believe that. And so I've used it for a place for me to blog about my thoughts and feelings of what has happened. I've invited guest bloggers to write. So if there's anyone out there who feels like they have something that they want to say out loud, you can reach out to me and we will definitely get you up and running as a guest writer. So yeah, that's
Philip.
what's what it is. Yeah, Philip.
I'm like, Philip, you're very outspoken sometimes.
Me? No.
No.
Yeah, I will think about that.
Yeah, please do. Something I do want to say in response to this project, it was a passion project, and now it's something I'm really pursuing and putting my heart and soul into, hoping that this can be something that continues and sustainably and into the future, is I have been so overwhelmed by how incredible this community is of impacted workers. Truly, like I cannot say enough wonderful things about the people that unfortunately our government has kicked to the curb, because they're bright, they're hardworking. Believe it or not, you hear me? They're hardworking people. And they're taking this moment and making purpose and finding purpose in it. And it's been so supportive. It's been empathetic. It's been celebratory. It's been focused. This community is incredible. And it's been one of the biggest blessings that I've received through creating the Fed Up, is being able to be in touch with so many wonderful people. It's been one of my absolute favorite things. And I'm always here to help celebrate the great things that people are doing. Yeah, it's been amazing. It's an amazing community.
Yeah, I think that's something. I mean, there is a positive of finding out that you're not alone and
Yeah.
that there is a community out there. I swear every day there's a new post, there's a new somebody saying, I feel like I can finally say something. I can finally say why I left. I can say what's going on. I think October 1 is going to be a very interesting day, just because so many people will feel those chains, those ties cut.
Yep. As scary as it is also going to be, I think, liberating for a lot of people to feel like they can finally speak freely in a way that they're not as scared as what could potentially happen to them while speaking out, right? Even though, for those of you who are not working in the federal government, yes, technically I'm no longer in my functional capacity. I am still an employee of the Department of Justice until the end of September. And so we're still required to adhere to those policies until the end of the month. But there was an ethical review of my blog, and they came back and said I was within my First Amendment rights. So I hope other people find that encouraging, that you still have rights that can be protected and you should use them, exercise
Absolutely.
those rights.
Yeah, definitely. I know I've felt that balancing act too of like, I can't wait until October to say what needs to be said, but, there's a lot more that I would like to be able to say right now as well. So that will be very freeing. And I know I've talked to a few people who are like, yeah, no, I'm really interested in this, but I feel like I can't do anything right now. So I'm also looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, as hard as it's going to be. I mean, I'm so curious how many people at the end of this will have been either fired, let go, taken to court. I don't know. It's a huge group of people.
Yeah. And Philip, you had mentioned another, was it 300,000 employees gone?
So it's sort of bounced all over. It's hard to know who to believe in what the actual thing is because it hasn't been transparent at all. This is something that there honestly should be a transparency site up from the government somewhere of, if we're actually saving money, what are the numbers? Like how many employees are there? What were their payroll? Like what were the pay grades? Like there are ways to do this and still protect privacy and show the public, this is the impact it's having. But early on, there had been a Washington Post thing that somebody had quoted 200,000 people took the deferred resignation option. And I think at that time, they were even still offering deferred resignation after at some agencies. So that number could have gone up. But then in July, there was another thing that came out. I forget where it was published, but I was looking at it the other day and they quoted to OPM administrators who weren't authorized to speak to the public or something. And they said in July, they were paying 154,000 people under deferred resignation to not go to work. So whether 50,000 people had gotten jobs and went ahead and left, or if there was some discrepancy there, those numbers are still so huge compared to anything that we've ever seen before. When I was sort of looking at this recently, and I don't know if this was even really a single day layoff, but the largest single layoff in the private sector had been IBM in 1993, and it was 63,000 people. Of course, there was a big postal service restructure where there were, I think, quite a few more people than that later on. But a lot of times these things are stretched out over months and years. It's not, well, okay, tomorrow none of you work here anymore. And as much as, this feels like it's been this long drawn out exit, on paper, it's still, we're all employees getting paid until October 1st. And I don't think any of us can fully process in this job market, especially what it's going to feel like on October 1st. I just keep thinking back to my Marine Corps days of your plan's going to go out the window as soon as the shooting starts. And I don't want to equate October 1st to that, but it's kind of that okay, yeah, here's your plan, but what are you going to do when it's time to implement it and everything isn't coming together? And so there's a lot of that anxiety, I think.
Yeah, I resonate with a lot of what you're saying and thinking about October 1st as this day of reckoning. And yeah, you kind of alluded to it. And so many people look like they're employed right now. I am so curious, what the unemployment rates are going to be in places like DC in October.
Yeah, we've been a little bit jealous of the people in DC strictly because in our profession, that's where most of the jobs are in the private sector. In DC, there are so many people now competing for those jobs that are on site. It's just, I can't imagine. There are probably entire blocks where federal employees live next door to each other and they're all well, what are you going to do tomorrow?
I know. It is really interesting to see. So to be determined back up in October.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. Absolutely. And this will probably not air until mid to late October. And so I don't know. Maybe we'll update. Maybe we'll update at
Yeah,
that
maybe you
point.
can add a little
Just
update at the end with
yeah, a
updated
little
unemployment
blurb.
numbers, I think would be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, the unemployment numbers, that's going to be very interesting because with the deferred resignation, like you're not eligible for unemployment, but there were so many people that were RIF'd that were in the reduction in force. So those numbers are already, or those will come up once
Mhm.
they're off their severance, their pay. All right, so Jordan, what's next? What's
Yeah,
next for you?
the big question, honestly. As we've discussed here, I'm still definitely figuring that out. I'm hoping that and working towards the Fed Up to be something that I can one day live off of. But in the interim, I don't know. I think my heart and soul is in doing work that's in defense of democracy and finding ways that I can continue to stay committed to my oath that I took and that I took very seriously. Even though I'll no longer be a civil servant, I'll still be somebody who is dedicated to public service. And so that's something that I want to take with me, whatever's next. If anyone's hiring, let me know. Feel free. Remote's great. Yeah, so definitely still figuring that out. But I hope people will come to the Fed Up. You can find me personally on LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect with me there. I post a lot about the Fed Up. You can find my Fed Up page on LinkedIn as well. You can find me on Substack at thefedup.substack.com. And please feel free to reach out to me as well at thefedupcommunity@gmail.com if you're interested in writing a guest blog. If you have other ideas, I'm also starting to do workshops. So by this time, I will have in partnership worked with Well Fed, an incredible organization who's supporting impacted workers. If you have not heard of them, you should go look them up. They're doing a retreat, and I will be hosting and facilitating a workshop called An Inside Job, Writing Your True Story and Why That Matters. If anyone's interested in that workshop or a customized workshop, that is something I'm now offering as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I hope that you are able to parlay that into a full-time,
Thank you.
full supporting
Yes.
job. So this last question, this is something we ask everyone. Would you go back?
No. No, I wouldn't. Not right now. Maybe in the future. Who knows, right? But no.
Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. You definitely are the true example of public servant, of really wanting to give back and make this world a better place. I wish you all the best. For all of our listeners, definitely check out Jordan's blog, The Fed Up. We'll have a link in the show notes.
Great.
But but Jordan, thank you so much for forking off with us today.
Yeah, I'm always down to fork off. So, future you can give me a call. No, this is definitely not goodbye. It's been so great. You guys have been so supportive of the Fed Up and the work that I'm doing. I'm really excited about this podcast. This is such a cathartic space. I believe so much in needing more of these places to say the true thing out loud. So thank you both so much. And I know we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Forking Off. To our listeners still in government, remember, your integrity is worth more than your TSP. Leaving doesn't mean giving up on public service. It just means finding new ways to serve.
Until next time,
Keep your ethics,
keep your dignity.
and we'll keep telling these stories.
If you're a former Fed with a story to tell, or you're wrestling with your own ethical crossroads, reach out to us at info@forkingoff.com.
Today's episode was created, produced, and edited by Jill and Philip Fields. Special thanks to our guest Jordan Mathews and the Fed Up. You can find more information about this episode at forkingoff.com. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Mastodon, LinkedIn, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Join us Monday, October 13th.
As we speak with Dr. John Cordell, U.S. Navy retired.
It's rare that you find a job that actually fits what you'd rather be doing all the time anyway. And I think I had found that in my human factors job. It was just a series of, well, they won't do that. Well, they won't do that. Whatever that was, they did. I've gone through like 6 or 7 administration changes. Never seen anything like this. The closest I could kind of come up with was reading about McCarthyism. And it's funny, my wife's German, so she would talk about, yeah, we've been through this before. We call it the Stasi.